We have heard that 500,000 children have died. I mean, that's more children than died in Hiroshima. And you know, is the price worth it?
I think this is a very hard choice, but we think the price is worth it.
Roads to Liberty presents The Guardians of Liberty with your hosts, Nathan Barada and Zach Taylor.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Guardians of Liberty podcast, hosted by myself, Nathan Parada, and my co-host, Zach Taylor. How you doing, Zach?
I'm doing a lot better this week than I normally complain about being.
Oh, good for you. I'm feeling sore as heck right now. My job put me on the back of a garbage truck a couple days ago, picking up recycling, and that was just hell on my back. So I've been sore ever since then.
Sounds
just the worst.
Sounds like you're getting old.
Maybe, or maybe just hopping up and down off a truck 500 times in 5 hours just isn't the best for your back. I don't know.
So are you normally the driver then?
No, usually I'm the guy that delivers trash cans. That's usually what I'm doing. But we only had a few stops. So they're like, hey, Nathan, why don't you get on the back of a truck and help us out today? I'm like, all right, that's cool. I hadn't done it in a while, so let's do it. And then they put me on recycling. And yeah, I've been exhausted ever since. But I'm back. I'm ready to go. It's the weekend. I'm ready to watch Nebraska get their butt kicked by Penn State tomorrow.
Oh, that's going to be so bad.
You know, by the time we get this episode out, that game probably would have already been played. So, you know what, everybody? It was a hard day on Saturday watching Nebraska lose 57-3. But we're moving on to Iowa.
Winter is coming.
Yes, but frost will be here soon. Winter is coming, but the frost gets here first.
Hopefully. I don't know. We won't be able to sign him until January, though, because he's going to want to stay for the bowl game.
No, coaches leave all the time before their bowl games.
Yeah, but that team is in the top 15. You don't leave a top 15 team before a bowl game. Sure you do, if you got a bigger, better job that pays more money. Yeah, but that job is still going to pay more money when you leave in January. Well, here's the thing. It's not like Nebraska is going to be like, hey, you have to come right now. Scott Frost gets to name his terms. He's proven himself, and we're the desperate ones in this relationship. Yeah, we're the ones that stuck with Mike Riley at the moment. Mr. 4-win Mike Riley. How about that? Like, I remember back in 2003 when we fired Frank Solich for going 9-3 and saying, we cannot slip into mediocrity. Do you remember that line? Mm-hmm. And here we are sitting at 4 wins. I mean, Frank Solich is starting to look pretty good, too. Let's just well in Ohio. You know, if they brought him back, I wouldn't even be mad. No, but I get it. Okay. But yeah, we screwed you over, buddy. I'm sorry about that. I would be very surprised if he came back, but anyway, let's talk about freedom and stuff. Yeah, let's stop with the depressing stuff, which is Nebraska football, and talk about even more depressing stuff. So we're both veterans. I was in the Air Force, you were in the Army, and as veterans, foreign policy holds kind of it holds some weight to us. You know, we've both been overseas. I've been to Iraq. I don't know where you've deployed to. UAE. Oh, so you didn't even get to deploy. Whatever. It was technically, so we were the last unit in the Army to have that considered a combat deployment. So I went, my pay was tax-free and I had combat pay for it. I got combat pay for sitting on an Air Force base with a swimming pool and Wi-Fi. Dude, I knew some guys that they went to Dubai, right?
and they went swimming with whale sharks while they were there. And that was considered like a combat tour because the base had just been set up. It was brand new.
Al Dhafra Air Force Base.
Yeah, I think that was the place. They're swimming
That's
with
the
whale
only
sharks.
base that we have in that country. So Dubai is like 35 minutes one way. Abu Dhabi is 45 minutes the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's Al Dhafra's kind of in a little bit. I'm giving away military secrets, but you can Google where it's at.
I'm sure none of that is a military secret.
They were trying to tell us before we deployed, like, we can't really, this is top secret, blah, blah, blah. And then one of the guys is like, as they're talking, he's on his phone, he's like, I found pictures of our base on Google Earth. And they're just like, oh, well, crap.
All of a sudden, the NSA's bursting down your door. You're getting put into cuffs and dragged away. I'm like, oh, don't worry, Zach. I'll finish the podcast without you. Stay strong, brother. Just do as they say. Put your hands behind your back. Stop resisting, Zach. Stop resisting.
Am I being detained?
Don't tase me, bro. Like, yes, you were being detained. If it wasn't obvious from the fact that we just knocked down your door.
They'd probably shoot my dog, too. Then I'd have to go all ape crap on them. I'm barely stopping myself from swearing right now.
They do tend to like to do that, don't they?
Yeah.
To shoot people's dogs for no reason. Even the cuddly cute ones they shoot.
Yeah.
They all look at Chihuahua. He's going to bite me. Bam! He's dead.
I mean,
Anyway.
It's a Chihuahua. That's not really as big of a deal. I'm just kidding. Don't shoot dogs.
Anyway, so we're going to talk about foreign policy today and the post 9/11 world. And we've been wanting to talk about this issue for a while now, but we just kept putting it off for some reason.
Yeah, because you wanted to talk about social justice warrior crap.
I can't help myself. That stuff amuses me so much. I just can't help it. So, but now we're finally getting to the foreign policy stuff.
We have to, this week and next week have to not be social justice. And then the week after that's actually the Bitcoin episode with that Connor fellow whose last name escapes me. The September, oh my gosh. The November 30th podcast, so it'll probably come out like December 2nd or so. We're going to have the guy from the Better Money Political Action Committee. They deal with a lot of libertarian issues related to like licensing reform, which is near and dear to our hearts, cryptocurrency, monetary policy. So he's going to want to talk about his political action committee, which is cool. I would encourage people to look that up before we even talk to him, because he's got a lot of cool stuff on their Facebook page and everything. But yeah, it just derailed us. Yeah, we're not talking about social justice warrior crap until at least December.
I'll have to resist the urge to make every single episode about social justice warriors. But anyway, for a second time, let's bring this back to foreign policy. So we're here to discuss, I guess, the war on terror. And I've been listening to a lot of Scott Horton lately because he has a new book out called Fool's Errand, which I haven't read yet, but it sounds amazing, and every libertarian I've listened to highly recommends it. But anyway, he's talking about the war on terror and how this, by definition, this is a war that cannot be won. Okay. All right, and what do I mean by that? Well, just listen to the war on terror. How do you win a war on terror? Terror is a tactic. It is the means that somebody that does not have a conventional army or a lot of resources, it's the means they use to inflict damage and fear upon a superior enemy. You cannot defeat that. There's no possible way to do it. A tactic is just a way someone engages in warfare. That's just like declaring war on guerrilla warfare. It's not feasible. It's not possible. And there's no actual benchmarks to success. Like, what does a victory in the war on terror actually look like? Is it the defeat of a specific terrorist organization like Al-Qaeda? Well, we had Al-Qaeda pretty much defeated, And then all of a sudden, it just got replaced by another terrorist organization, ISIS. Now that's on the run, but no one's talking about the end of the war on terror. Terrorism is still a huge factor all over the Middle East, despite more than a decade of American involvement there. So it's a war that cannot be won. There's no benchmark to success. There's no goal, I guess you could say. Whenever you embark on a mission, there's got to be a goal in mind. There's got to be an end date. Like, look at any conventional war we fought. World War II is a good example. What did victory in World War II look like? Victory in World War II looked like the unconditional surrender of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan. That's how you knew you won the war, right? You knew you won the second those sides surrendered. What does victory in the war on terror actually look like, though? Because it's not the defeat of any one specific terrorist group. Otherwise, we just go after them. It's not the overthrow of any one specific country, because every 3-4 years, there's another country that our government wants to overthrow. So if it's not these things, then what is it? Is it the lack of major terrorist attacks on the U.S. soil? Because since 9/11, we haven't had a major terrorist attack on American soil. We have had terrorist attacks, sure, but nothing on the scale, anywhere near the scale of 9/11. So
it depends on, like, it. That's a really high scale, because no one's had a terrorist attack that big since then. But
no,
you could argue that like the Pulse shooting would have been a terrorist attack that was big. The San Bernardino shooting was a terrorist attack that was pretty big. The
Boston City Marathon.
Yeah, that could have been bigger than it was. You could, if you're going to talk about terror in general and not the fact that the war on terror is really about the war on Islamic terror. Dylan Roof, that was kind of a big deal. But we're not, like, that's, I don't know. To me, they're not different, but to the government, they definitely are.
Yeah, they definitely are. But the thing about it is, let's take the Pulse nightclub shooting, for example. There's nothing that our war on terror could have done to stop that. No, that was probably one of the bigger attacks on American soil that we've had since 9/11. And if anything, the war on terror was a motivating factor for that and not a deterrent to it.
Definitely.
I mean, this is what people don't understand about the war on terror, is that, and Scott Horton's made this point on, I think it was the Dangerous History podcast, that, let's play some terrorist math. Kill 2, create 20. Yeah. That's essentially how it works. Every time the United States engages in a new war on a new front in this battle against terrorism, we just create more enemies. This is what Ron Paul called blowback. I've seen estimates that anywhere between 80 to 90% of all victims of American drone strikes aren't terrorists. They're innocent civilians that are caught in the crossfire. They're people just happen to be there. They just happen to be close by.
And I do want to point something out here for the sake of being fair and honest, because I remember during the Obama administration, we hammered Obama for his drone strike program. And we should have, because that was brutal. And a lot of innocent people died. I read an article, and I can't remember where it's at. It was a publication that I wouldn't think would lie about this, because there's fake news and then there's like reporting on this kind of stuff. But apparently Trump is on pace to blow Obama's kill record out of the water, and it's not being reported.
No, here's the thing about it.
The right-wing sites that were reporting on Obama don't care that Trump was doing it, and the left-wing sites that you would think would be reporting on it are too busy talking about Pissgate to
What?
care.
It's not just that. It's that I think a lot of these left-wing media types, they're afraid to go after Trump on these issues, because if they did that, it would be an indictment against Obama. Because really, what is Trump doing? Yeah, what is Trump doing but continuing the Obama era policies? He's doing exactly what his predecessor did. He's just ramping it up in the same way that Obama ramped up the Bush era drone strikes.
And that's all. Like, we are consistent. We were against Bush doing this. We were against Obama doing this. We're against Trump doing this. We need to stop killing people. That's like supporting the murder of people all around the world, like with drone strikes. I'm sorry, that makes you a bad person. If you support that, that does not speak well of your character. And I'm sorry that there's not a nice way to say that, but sometimes the truth hurts. That there's no excuse for that murder.
Well, see, people will counter this and say, hey, but we're getting terrorists. You know what? These are precision bombs. They're getting terrorists. And you know what? Maybe they are getting some terrorists. But does that justify the collateral damage? Does that justify killing dozens, sometimes even hundreds of innocent people who are killed in the crossfire? Is that justifying turning a wedding into a butcher's ground? Does that make that okay?
Even in their twisted logic where that's okay, here's the truth. You killed a terrorist or two. Great job. You just made 100. Because all the people who are related to the people that just died, they hate you enough to fight you now. Good job.
Exactly. I mean, what do they think happens? I mean, just imagine, and Ron Paul made this point a dozen times in the campaign, but it deserves to be hammered home. Just imagine if there was some foreign power doing this to us. Say the Russians were flying drones in the skies over Omaha and dropping bombs in the middle of Old Market in order to get some criminal. I say they got the criminal, say they got the terrorist, but they just blew up 30 other people who were just out getting dinner. You know, they blew up they murdered some family's child.
Nukes would fly if that happened.
Yeah. I mean, do people not think that if some other government were doing this to us, that you'd have a movement of homegrown American terrorists rising up to resist this? Do you not think you would create an entire generation of people who hate the Russia enough to go over there and murder them as revenge for them murdering us first?
We used what would be considered terrorist tactics to fight the British for our War of Independence. A lot of our tactics were similar. We weren't targeting innocents the same way, but the guerrilla warfare that you see ISIS doing and all those tactics, we used them. And we used those tactics against someone who was trying to levy a small tax on our tea. Can you imagine? I mean, the Boston Massacre sparked that war, and that was nothing compared to what we're doing to these countries. You cannot, it's bad when terrorists come to America and kill innocent people. That is immoral. Clearly. And they are evil. It's just as bad when we do it. It's just as immoral. It's just as evil. As Ben Shapiro says, put the shoe on the other foot.
Why do you hate America, Zach? Why do you hate America so much? I demand that you retract your statements, you anti-American terrorist lover.
You know, it's funny, we started this podcast with me being like, well, I really want to be able to make my points and be a nice, good person. And I think I am, but this topic, there isn't a nice way to approach this.
No,
we are doing evil throughout the world. Our government that is elected by us is doing evil in our name, and we are not stopping them. And that is on us.
This is an issue that libertarians need to lead the way on, because we're the only ones with moral credibility when it comes to this topic.
Yep.
There are some conservatives that are starting to come around on this issue. Some, not a lot though. Like when Trump started talking about how Iraq was a mistake and how we need to reverse a lot of Obama-era policies, a lot of people on the right started saying, yeah, that's right. And then Trump comes into office, does the same exact thing Obama does. And a lot of people...
Go ahead.
A lot of people on the left, they worship Obama as some kind, like he's the best president we've ever had. They cannot bring themselves to criticize him. And when it comes to the issue of war, there is legitimate criticism to be had. The worst thing Obama ever did, in my mind, was silence the anti-war left. Because the minute he came into office, everyone just kind of patted themselves on the back and said, good job, everybody, we won. And then stopped paying attention.
Yeah.
And they started excusing everything he did when it came to foreign policy.
So here's the thing. I'm about to step in it. When you build your, God, we're going to do this again. When you build your entire political ideology on race and gender and class, when you elect a black person as your president, you can no longer criticize him because you have set him up as someone who is beyond criticism by your ideology. So they painted themselves in a corner. Even if they were still against war, well, can't talk bad about the black guy who's president. And
yeah, they're afraid to do it.
And then when Republicans would criticize him, they'd be like, well, you just hate him because he's black. And then we'd get that same blowback too. And that's just, I don't care about someone's skin color. Like, it's, as Martin Luther King said, it's about the content of their character. And yeah, Obama had a bad character, and Trump has a bad character.
Yeah, we don't care about Obama's skin color. We care that he's dropping bombs on innocent people half a world away. That is more important to us than the fact that he's half black.
And let's be honest, he's dropping bombs, or was. Now it's Trump's turn to drop these bombs. They drop all these bombs on brown people. So if we're going to elevate people who are like people of color who are disenfranchised and don't have rights and are systematically oppressed, why are we bombing them?
This is what really gets me about the left, especially because I always expect the right to be those neocon warmongers, the John McCains, the Lindsey Grahams of the world. God, I hate those guys.
Yeah.
I despise their policies so much. But when I was growing up, the left was different than they are now. When I was growing up, it was all about the wars, in Iraq. When I was in high school, I identified more with the left than I did with the right simply because of the war issue. Because I was against the wars, because I opposed them, and it seemed like the left did too. That all went away when Barack Obama won the presidency. And here's the thing that really, really bugs me, especially these days under Donald Trump. Do you remember when Donald Trump initiated that 3-month travel ban against people from certain Islamic countries? Do you remember that? Do you remember the outrage? Just the gnashing of teeth that the left had. You know what? That's fine. Yeah, you can oppose the travel ban. That's all well and good.
We did.
Now, I remember specifically there was this video of this man in an airport who was detained because he was coming from one of those countries. I think he was coming from Iraq. And the left had a fit about this, just a huge fit. Mm-hmm. I think it was that very same week or very close to it, Donald Trump ordered a drone strike in Mosul that killed 30 to 50 innocent people. Not a peep. Not a peep from these people. So if you would have taken that man who was detained in an American airport, If Donald Trump had murdered him in his home country instead, the left would have had less outrage than they did him being detained at an airport. Donald Trump could literally kill a man, and it would elicit less rage from the left than detaining him for a little while in an airport would. That's what gets me about the left. That's the hypocrisy. It's their lack of prioritizing on the issue of foreign policy. The priority should be don't drop bombs. That should be priority number one in foreign policy. Not, oh, don't detain this guy at the airport. That may be bad. Killing him is worse.
And so anyone who's listening who might want to jump on us, the reason we're hammering the left right now is because we gave up on the right a long time ago when it comes to war. Like, they're hawks. We expect it. We don't expect anything other but base human behavior from them on this topic. It's frustrating that we're losing the left in this country to that same mentality when it comes to war.
No, we already lost the left. They already.
Yeah, probably.
They don't care. They don't care about foreign policy.
If Donald Trump wanted to, as much as the left hammered him about, oh, he's trying to start World War III, if he declared war on Russia tomorrow, his approval rating would go up in the 60s.
Yeah, the only
everyone seems to
time
want that fight all of a sudden. Republicans and Democrats, like, are you dumb?
You said the Republicans will start a war at the drop of the hat, but they will only get that opportunity if the left joins them.
Yep.
You know, the right didn't start the war in Iraq, guys. The left helped them do it. Hillary Clinton was all for that war, if you'll remember. The left has to be on board for the right to get the wars they want. And they've been on board more often than not lately. You know, it's just one of those things. I think Dave Smith on his podcast made this point that if we could just get a tenth of the outrage about bombing foreign countries that we do about transgender issues, these wars would stop. Just give me a tenth of that outrage and direct it towards murdering children overseas.
The Senate in 2000, which would have been the Senate that declared war in Afghanistan and Iraq, was 50-50. You do not get a war declaration with a 50-50 Senate if one of the parties is opposing it.
Mm-hmm. See,
and what was the vote? Actually, what was the vote to go to war?
Yeah, go ahead and look that up. I'm from what I remember, both sides very heavily supported it. I mean, because I do remember it was one of the reasons that Barack Obama beat Hillary Clinton in the Democratic primaries, because she had voted for the war when Obama did not. You know, it's
okay. So in the House, it was 215 Republicans for, 6 against, 82 Democrats for, 126 against. So the Democrats were about a little more than a third for, we'll say 60-40 for and against. So that was a landslide. In the Senate, 48 Republicans said yes, 1 said no. 29 Democrats said yes, 21 said no. That means in the Senate, the Democrats were for the war. In the House, they weren't. But it was close.
Yeah, even in the House, a very, very large chunk of them were for the war. And it's telling that even to this day, the only time that the mainstream of bashing Donald Trump was when he started bombing Syria. It was the only time they started praising him. Like, oh, look how presidential this guy looks. He's bombing a foreign country. He's bombing a third world country. How presidential? Yeah, I guess so, because it's somewhat of a presidential tradition to just go around bombing everybody.
Yeah.
So I guess it is presidential now. You don't get to call yourself a president until there's some third world Middle Eastern country that you've bombed.
And I'm just saying, like, apparently Gary can't even find those countries on a map, so we wouldn't be bombing them if he was president.
That's full well. You know what?
Unless there was a mountain there for him to climb, he doesn't care about it.
went good. Aleppo. Oh, he's so horrible. He didn't know where Aleppo was. I'd rather have a guy that doesn't know where Aleppo is than a guy who knows where it is and wants to bomb it.
Yeah. Or
rather
more
have
specifically, was actually in the process of bombing it.
Yeah. I mean,
those airstrikes were ours, man. Like all those pictures of those kids, like some of them were Syria, some of them were us. Like,
yeah. And I don't want to
So
rehash the
frustrating.
whole Syrian thing because that was just such a mess. I was honestly afraid
it's
that we
still
were on
a
the brink
mess.
of a
Like,
war.
there's no was with Syria. It's still a dumpster fire.
Oh, it still is. But for a while there, I thought we were on the brink of an actual war, like boots on the ground invading Syria. Now I'm glad that
Against
didn't
Russian
come up.
troops. Yeah, that would have been fun.
Well, that was my biggest fear because a war in Syria would easily turn into a war against Russia, but thankfully cooler heads prevailed on that one. There's not the stomach for that kind of war in the American public right now. That's why it didn't happen. People don't want it.
I obviously I don't know what goes on in the Trump administration. Judging by who's involved in that administration, though, I'd have to say that at some point they were going full speed ahead, and Mattis sat him down and said, "Look, guys, this is not a good idea, and you're all a bunch of idiots." Because,
like, guys, you realize if you take out Assad, ISIS is going to take over, right? Like, this shouldn't be a shocker to you, right? Because duh, it's Assad or it's ISIS. There's no good rebels there anymore. They're all bad guys, you know? And here's the thing about it, because it's been a running theme for the Republican Party, especially for years, that the terrorists hate us for our freedom. They hate us because of bikinis and Barbies and I don't know, reality TV, all this crap. They try to make their
to be fair, that does exist in that part of the world. There is a hatred of Western culture in that part of the world, but not enough for this.
Well, yeah, sure. There's a hatred of Western culture, but that doesn't explain the level of violence that they want to bring against us. I want to direct you towards comments made by one. Let me look it up. I think it was Madeleine Albright in the wake of the Bill Clinton sanctions against Iraq in the 1990s. Now, Madeleine Albright she was on 60 Minutes, and she was asked specifically, look, it is estimated that the sanctions that President Clinton put on Iraq killed up to 500,000 Iraqi children. Was that worth it? Now, keep in mind that those sanctions didn't oust Saddam Hussein, the goal of those sanctions. So the sanctions didn't even accomplish the goal. So she was asked, were these worthless, pointless sanctions worth the lives of 500,000 children? And she said yes. She said yes to that question. Now, let's put this in perspective, all right? We're all Nebraska-Cornhusker football fans, right? Memorial Stadium fits about 90,000 people, right? Now, just imagine every single seat in Memorial Stadium is filled with a child, somebody under the age of 18, from newborns to teenagers. There is a child filling every single seat in Memorial Stadium. Now imagine you lock them in and don't let them out. Now imagine you don't allow them any food and you just watch them starve to death over the course of the next week until every single one of them has died. And then do it 4 more times. That's what we're talking about. That's the kind of numbers that we're talking about when we say 500,000 dead kids. Now, I've got a son. I've only got one. You know, he's sleeping in the room right next to mine right now. I can only imagine the devastation, the anguish, the anger I would feel if anything happened to him, much less starvation caused by a foreign blockade on my country.
It'd make you want to go fight someone, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. If some country did that, my son died as a result, that country would be my enemy until the day I die. That would be motivation for me to put on a suicide vest, walk into the capital of that country, and try to blow up as many people as I can. That's how angry that would make me. That's the kind of motive. That's the kind of thing that motivates people to kill themselves in the name of, because their child was murdered by a foreign government, and the government doesn't even care. And the people of that country don't even know. How many people know that 500,000 children were killed because of us, because of our actions in Iraq in the 1990s? How many people honestly know that? Probably not very many. There's probably not many people in this country that have that knowledge.
Imagine what that does. So that has far-reaching effects outside of just the terrorism angle. When you eliminate, like, what's quick side note here. Entertain yourself. In 1990, the population of Iraq was 17.5 million. So they lost more than 5% of their population to starvation. That hurts. Like, that hurts an economy that's already struggling. That hurts a culture that just lost a generation. Like, that can cripple civilizations and bring ethnic groups to extinction. That's a real issue.
And let's keep in mind that this was brought about in the aftermath of a war in which their military was absolutely decimated. The Iraqi military did not exist in any serious capacity after the first Iraq war. They had no air force. Their army was completely destroyed. Their armor was gone. This is a country that couldn't defend itself, much less pose a serious threat to any of their neighbors.
They had a large military, but it was like tanks and ground troops. That's all it was.
Yeah, they had a large military, but a lot of it was decimated in the Iraq war.
Yeah, they didn't have technology. So it was like, if we went to war with North Korea, they'd fire off all their artillery and then have nothing left because they have a lot of troops with guns that probably misfire. Great.
So here's my point. Iraq is a shell of what it once was.
Iraq used to be beautiful.
It used to be a pretty vibrant country. Shane was an evil man.
Yeah.
But what we did to that country is not
some
better.
Issues right now, like your connection. But so here's the thing: we can go on this for forever, really. I don't know that there's a whole lot more that we can say here, other than to vent our anger and our heartbreak, because this is like, imagine this being your family. These are people. Iraq was a dictatorship, but most of the people were just trying to get by. They weren't part of this. When you blockade a country, when you drop bombs all over the place, you're not going to eliminate the people that are creating the problem. You're just going to kill innocent people.
And we would be remiss to leave out the fact that this is a mistake that the United States is presently in the process of making all over again.
Yeah, we never stopped making this mistake all over the Middle East.
No, but as of right now, the United States, backing Saudi Arabia, has a blockade on Yemen, the poorest country in all the Middle East.
The Congress did just pass a resolution yesterday saying that we shouldn't have involvement in that. So there are some people trying to get us out of it.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure like the Rand Pauls and Justin Amash's in the world are trying their best to stop this. But the crisis in Yemen all stems from the fact that we're trying to back the Saudis.
We are trying to back the most evil regime in the world. Look,
essentially,
we are allies with the epitome of human evil. You can talk about communism and it's bad. You can talk about North Korea and they're bad. There is no one like Saudi Arabia. No one.
I mean, the Saudi Arabia, as you said, is one of, if not the most oppressive regimes in the entirety of the world. And the United States backs them. Most of the 9/11 terrorists were Saudi. So Osama bin Laden was a Saudi. Now the Saudis are launching
all these mosques that are popping up all over Europe and America. And look, you can have a mosque. That's fine. I don't care about your religion. What I care about is when a sect of your religion is funding a mosque specifically to radicalize young men who are disenfranchised in their communities, because that's what the Wahhabis have done. They will build a mosque in an area, target all the young Muslim men and also any converts they can get. That's why you occasionally see these white Muslims doing terror attacks. They are specifically looking for people who are outcasts. They're losers. They're people who aren't happy. And Larry Sharp talks about this, and he articulates it so brilliantly. And I wish I could get the point across like he does. But basically, he says that these things happen. For these things to happen, you have to deal with someone who is not happy. And this is why I have always said that we need to flood these places with capitalism, like real capitalism, not this thing that the socialists will call capitalism, but free market. Give these people a chance to succeed. Give their lives some meaning, because if they don't have meaning, they will turn to something that gives them meaning. And if that's Wahhabist Islam, people are going to die.
Especially if you're going about killing their friends and, causing the deaths of thousands of people in other Muslim countries. That might motivate somebody to turn to radicalism.
It's really easy to get someone who feels that way into your crazy sect of your religion. And this isn't, hashtag not all Muslims. Wahhabists are dangerous. It is a specific political ideology that kind of takes a lot of the Muslim faith and takes just the worst parts of it, and then finds victims who are just downtrodden and rejects, and they give them something to fight for. And the Saudis poured billions into these Wahhabi groups that they've lost control of. These groups are now major problems.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're presently in the process of backing them, the worst country in the Middle East, causing a humanitarian crisis that some people assist in a generation. I mean, the situation in Yemen, if it does grow enough food, the major cash crop is coffee.
You're breaking up really bad. So, here's the problem with Yemen. The population, they tried to remove their leader, who was a Saudi puppet, and the Saudis weren't having that. I'm trying to quickly wrap this up. Well, not wrap it up, but explain the backstory here, because I don't think a lot of people know. A general in the regime finally, probably for selfish reasons, stepped out of the regime, headed the resistance movement to try to get this guy overthrown and get the Saudis out of control of Yemen. The Saudi retaliation, backed by America and several other what's the word? GCC countries.
Yeah.
They've decimated Yemen. Yemen could, like, the people groups in Yemen could face extinction if this continues. This is wiping bloodlines off the face of the earth levels of bad. This is genocide.
It's absolutely breaking to see what's going on in that country right now, and it's all for the sake of this evil regime in Saudi Arabia. There's no American interest in Yemen at all. The people are fighting against ISIS. You know, the Houthis are the people that the Saudis are going after. They're kind of like the people that overthrew, you know, their prior regime. This is the prior regime that the Saudis are trying to fight to get back in control. But, you know, you got ISIS on the ground, you got these Houthis, and then you got the Saudi-backed Yemenese government. You know, it's a mess, and there's no reason for the United States to get involved so we can cause the deaths of more people. I mean, it's Iraq in the 1990s all over again. And if we think that this is going to end well for us, we're delusional. This is going to end very badly for us. You know, if for nothing, if you don't care about all the people overseas that we're killing, if you honestly don't care about that, then consider this at least. Today's victims are tomorrow's terrorists. These are the people that are going to be motivated to fight us for the next 2 decades. You know, you're not going to win this fight by acting this way. No, America's not going to win this way. It's just going to end badly for us. So if that's all you care about, consider that at least. Consider that our grandchildren are going to be fighting this war if we continue acting in this manner. If the United States can continue actually funding this war for that long, which I highly doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So we're going to kind of segue, because we've been talking about morality quite a bit. And like we've said about all we can say here, we could talk for hours about how terrible this is.
Absolutely could.
So I want to talk about something kind of in the movement, because we've come out here and we've said some hard truths. We haven't been politically correct. We haven't been soft on anyone. We've come out here guns blazing on this because it's important. But what we haven't done is we haven't specifically gone out to be a jerk to someone. We haven't name called anyone.
Except Madeleine Albright.
Yeah, so that's a specific criticism of a specific person. We're not painting groups in a broad brush, other than maybe Wahhabists, but I mean, that's an ideology founded on global domination, so I'm not going to feel bad. But here's something that I think libertarians need to work on. There's a lot of strains of the kind of the brutalist mindset in libertarianism that I think is ugly, and I'll take your votes, I guess, if your idea of libertarianism is because you want to go do your thing and be a jerk to everyone else. Like, okay, whatever. I don't think you're a good person. I do this, and we talked about this before we started. I can't think of a freedom that I don't enjoy, that I want. I would like taxes to be lower, obviously, but I'm not being denied anything I want to do. I'm not in this movement because of me. Really, I'm in this movement because I believe in human freedom. And I believe that freedom as a concept is worth fighting for, but also people are worth fighting for. And making the world a better place for people is something that motivates me to get up every day and making The last couple of weeks have been pretty difficult for me. Like Nathan knows most of this. We've talked offline. Like my fiance was pregnant and lost the baby. There were some things that happened at her work where she was denied a promotion. I had some problems going on at work. I had a concussion that had lingering effects for about 2 weeks and was triggering my panic attacks very badly. And so the last 3 or 4 weeks for me have been terrible. And through all that, what pulled me out of bed every morning was, what can I do today to make the world a better, more free place? Because I think that's what good people do, and I want to be a good person. And to me, this is worth fighting for, but it's worth fighting for the right way. It's worth being kind. It's worth saying good things and being uplifting. It's worth being nice to people.
Absolutely. And this just brings me back, all the way back to 2008 when I first became a libertarian after listening to Ron Paul. Like, Ron Paul was the most anti-war candidate I can ever remember for high office. He was unapologetically anti-war. He was unapologetically anti-Fed. He took a lot of radical positions. But Ron Paul was never an a-hole about it. That's the thing about it. Ron Paul was an incredibly principled and persuasive man, but he never pushed people away. He always drew them towards him. He always said, here's my principle. Here's why I believe the way I do. Here's what I think, and this is why I think you should believe it too. Is this point, this point, this point. And never, at no point in time did he go out of his way to try to push people away. He tried to convince people based on the arguments, based on the moral clarity of his positions. You know, and there's so few libertarians that do that these days, and Ron Paul was one of them. Larry Sharpe is another one of those libertarians that's trying to draw people in and convince them that liberty is the best path forward. We do ourselves no favors by being jerks to people. I mean, that's the being audacious for its own sake doesn't help any. It's only going to make our goal that much more difficult to obtain. You can stand on principle, you can stand on your beliefs, do all that, but that doesn't mean jerk. You know, look to people like Ron Paul and Larry Sharpe as examples of communication and persuasion, as examples of the right way to put out the message of liberty in a manner that people can digest. Nobody ever got convinced of an argument because they were called, you know, some horrible name. You know, no one's ever said, "Hey, you're an idiot." Oh, you're right. I am an idiot. Let me just agree with what you say then. Yeah, that doesn't work. That's never worked. What works is
aren't rational. Like, and Larry Sharpe talks about this all the time. You have to make emotional arguments because humans are emotional. It's what we are. And we have good emotional arguments to make. We want you to be free and happy and to strive for greatness. We want you to be the best version of yourself. Those are emotional arguments, but they're true. I mean, I hope. That's what I want for people. I know that's what you want for people. Like, you have to be nice. Like,
see, this is one of the things that I struggle with. It's not so much the niceness. It's the appealing on an emotional level, because I'm a very analytical kind of guy. I'm not an emotional kind of, I mean, I can get riled up, you know, I can go on a pretty good rant, But for the most part, I am not a very emotional guy. I'm a very analytical kind of person, just the kind of person I am. So appealing to someone on an emotional basis is very difficult to me. It's not an easy thing to do. And it's, you're right. A lot of people are persuaded more by emotional arguments than anything else. I think one of the ways that can translate very well is to making a moral argument as opposed to instead of a utilitarian. That's the word I'm looking for. I'm making it a moral argument as opposed to a utilitarian one. Like what's the moral argument against the war on terror? And maybe we should stop murdering people. That's a very moral argument. It's a lot more persuasive than the utilitarian argument that, hey, the war costs too much, it creates more terrorism, it can't be won. Yeah, that's all true. It's perfectly rational. But the moral argument is, hey, we're killing a whole lot of people that don't need to be killed. And that's wrong. We shouldn't be doing that. No, there's no point to it. This can be applied to a whole lot of different arguments. Like what's the utilitarian argument against the war on drugs, for example? The utilitarian argument is, A, it doesn't work, it costs too much, the social harm it does because of high prison populations is immense. The moral argument against the war on drugs is, hey, maybe you shouldn't lock people in a cage because they like getting high. Maybe that's not right. Maybe that's immoral. Maybe we should look at the morality of that first, and come up with a conclusion there. And for me, that's a principled argument, making moral arguments and principled arguments from that standpoint. That always helped convince me more than simple utilitarianism.
Yeah. All right, so we're coming up on an hour, so let's wrap. What do we got going on?
All right. Well, I think we're pretty much done with literature drops for the Laura Ebke campaign for now.
Yeah. By the time this goes out, the last one will be completed. So.
Yep. So the weather's getting colder. There's no point walking around in the snow.
but www.lauraebke.com/money-bomb-2017, and this is all over our social media pages. You'll find a link to it. Her money bomb, she has a money bomb right now that has a matching donor up to $15,000, and we're doing pretty good considering it dropped a couple days ago. We're already over 2,000, and I can't get the thing to load up to tell me where it's at right now, but I know that it was 2,200 earlier today, so we're doing good. Can you pull it up?
Keep this in mind, everybody. This is a matching donation. If you donate $1, somebody else will also donate $1.
Yeah.
All right. So your money doubles.
Yeah. And like I don't have a lot of money right now. I did $10 today, but that becomes 20. That helps. That's something. And I think if I, given what I have going on right now financially, if I can put $10 towards winning the most important race in the country in the Libertarian Party, everyone else can too.
Yeah, we've stressed week in and week out how important this race is.
Yep.
And it is. This is the most important race.
Yeah.
Because as great as Larry Sharpe is, and as important as I think his race is, this is more important. Because this one, Senator Ebke, it can actually win. Yeah.
I think her chances of winning are much higher than his.
Absolutely. And she's already done so much good work in the unicameral. Mm-hmm. It would be such a shame to miss out on that. She's already done so much good. Give her another 4 years and she can do a lot more good.
Yep.
And she's got the Republican establishment coming after her. She's got Pete Ricketts and Ricketts Jr., nipping at her heels. We got to support our candidates, guys. So please donate whatever you can. I don't care if it's as little as $1. Donate what you can to help this great candidate beat Pete Ricketts Jr. next year.
Other things, I'm going to be on 2 podcasts this weekend talking about the unconventional.
Woo!
I'm going to be on Alex Merced's podcast.
Really? Interesting.
Yep. And I'm going to be on the Think Liberty podcast.
Nice, nice, nice.
And then next week, I have an interview. Let me pull it up because I'm terrible about remembering names. So we have that series where we're interviewing people who are contenders for chair and vice chair and all that. On Twitter, he goes by Libertarian in Chief. It's Todd Hagopian. I'll have to ask him how to pronounce his name.
What's he running for?
Vice chair.
Okay.
He's kind of an outsider on the party, so his chances aren't as high as some others. But you can at least hear what he has to say. Maybe he's got some great ideas that, could sway some Nebraska delegates. I like to spread it out. Also, this is kind of veering off a little bit. Iowa has the Libertarian Party of Iowa is having a debate on Sunday in Council Bluffs, and I'm going to try to have this out so you can hear this before it happens. The gubernatorial candidates in Iowa. So Jake Porter, who we already interviewed, and then let's see if I can find this guy. Is this the right guy? Are we friends? Yes. Okay, Marco Battaglia. I'm terrible with names, people. I'm very sorry. I'm going to be interviewing him soon, as well as a candidate for governor in Iowa, since I interviewed his opponent, and I guess they're like good friends or something. So there's not like bad blood there, but they're going to have a debate on Sunday. Check the Libertarian Party of Iowa Facebook page for that, because I don't have all the information on the top of my head. I'm going to try to stream it for the Unconvention site, since they are a co-sponsor for the Unconvention. And David Pratt Demarest, who is the founder of the Roads to Freedom Foundation. He's the LNC Region 6, LNC Region 6 person. I'm tired. I'm sorry. So he's going to moderate the debate. It's going to be a lot of fun. The Libertarian Party of Iowa is going to stream it, and we're going to stream it. Or we might just share their stream to signal boost them, since it's really their event. And then I'm going to try to, do some on-the-spot interviews with people for our state page. It'll be a fun time. I'm trying to get really into the whole interview thing. As you can tell by the Libertarian Party of Nebraska page having, like, me interviewing Matt on the street. It'll be things like that. Those are the kind of things I want to do more of. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of great content going up on the Libertarian Party of Nebraska Facebook page. So you're doing a great job with the social media stuff, dude. You keep up that good work.
Thank you. And to me, it's more than social media, because, social media is posting Facebook statuses, but like, we're doing media. We do podcasts, we do interviews, we do a lot of stuff. It just happens on social media. So, so that's all I've got.
As far as events, I don't think I have anything.
Oh, we should plug. It's going to be in a couple weeks. December 6th, Douglas County Libertarian Party is having their elections. We'll talk about it again next week too, but it's important that they get full participation. I'm going to probably be there to interview and stream and stuff, so that I think it'll be educational for people who maybe want to start a county party, or maybe they have a smaller county party and they don't quite know how things are supposed to look, to let our biggest county kind of show them how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm sure Lancaster is going to hear that and be like, what? But.
All right, so let me read off the positions that are going to be open for Douglas County Libertarian Party.
Go for it.
Chair, vice chair, treasurer, secretary, outreach director, membership director, communications director, and candidate recruitment coordinator. Those are all the positions that are going to be up for vote in the Douglas County Libertarian Party. So if you want to be involved in the DCLP, this is the perfect time to do it.
Yep.
And I'm sure that all those positions, if there's not enough positions for everyone to get something, I'm sure that all those positions are going to be wanting help with their specific departments.
My only sadness is like, because I might be moving into Omaha very soon. It's like I'm letting Sarpy and Douglas kind of have a little war over who gets me when I move. But I won't be able to run for any of it because I haven't even started my move yet. That's sad.
Yep, you gotta come to Sarpy, dude.
Yep.
Then I'm gonna take it as a personal insult. No.
What positions are open in Sarpy?
What's happening in Sarpy?
Yeah, well, what positions are open? Because I have to be bribed.
We only have let's see, we got chair, vice chair, secretary, and treasurer. So any other position you want, you can just have by moving here.
Can I just be the old?
You can just have it. We'll give it to you.
Okay, I want it all.
It'll be yours for the taking. All right, I think we've rambled on for quite long enough. People are gonna get tired of listening to us just talk about random crap.
Yep.
All right, everyone. Remember to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and watch our video on YouTube. Anything else you want to say before we leave?
Be nice to people.
Yep, be nice to people and don't take their stuff. All right, everybody. For us at the Guardians of Liberty podcast, it's been fun talking to you. You all have a good one.
Have a good week, everyone.